So let's start from where we had stopped yesterday. To go along up to the manor house and be received by the owner like an old regimental comrade, that, however, did not please the tramp. This red trap maker was not happy with the idea of going to the owner's house as his old regimental comrade. Comrade means a companion. No, I couldn't think of it, he said, looking quite alarmed. He was in a way frightened that he might get caught in case, say, the owner comes to know that he was not his old regimental friend, comrade. I couldn't think of it, and he looked quite alarmed. He thought of the 30 kronor that he had taken. To go up to the manor house would be like throwing himself voluntarily into a lion's den, to push oneself into a great difficulty on one's own. He only wanted a chance to sleep here in the forge and then sneak away, silently go away, as inconspicuously as possible. Inconspicuously means without it. That was his plan. That was what he wanted. The Iron Master is because of his miserable clothing. But the Iron Master was a generous man. He thought that this old friend of mine is not willing to come just now because, say, he is clothed miserably. That's why. Please don't think that I have such a fine home that you cannot show yourself there, he said. So he said that my house is not so very good, so you can drop in if you want. It doesn't matter if you are not clothed properly. He said, Elizabeth is dead, as you may already have heard. My boys are abroad, no one at home except my oldest daughter and myself. We were just saying that it was too bad we didn't have any company for Christmas. So he says that my sons are not here, they are abroad, my wife is no more, that also you must be knowing. I live only with my eldest daughter, and it's Christmas time. We were thinking that it would be good if somebody comes just now. Now come along with me and help us make the Christmas food disappear a little faster. The Christmas food was prepared, but say if he would join them, the Christmas food would disappear a little faster. But the stranger said, and no, and again no, and the Iron Master saw that. So it looks as though Captain Von Stell preferred to stay with you tonight. Stegen Storm, he said to the master blacksmith, and turned on his heel. So this is he gave an order that say it looks as though Captain this blacksmith wants you to stay here. But he laughed to himself as he went away that he had not said his last word. He turned and went away, but the blacksmith knew that these were not the master's last word. He would still say something. It was not more than half an hour before they heard the sound of a carriage wheel outside the forge. After half an hour, say, the sound of a carriage wheel was heard, and a new guest came in. But this time it was not the iron master. He had sent his daughter, apparently hoping that she would have better powers of persuasion than he. He thought that, say, so after half an hour, he sent his daughter, thinking that she would be able to convince this man in a better way. She entered, followed by a valet, carrying on his arm a big fur coat. She was not at all pretty, but seemed modest and quite. In the morning was just as it had been earlier in the evening. The master blacksmith and his apprentice helper still sat on the bench, and iron charcoal still glowed in the furnace. The stranger had on the floor and lay with a piece of pig iron under head and his hat pulled down over his eyes. He was sleeping there. As soon as the young girl caught sight of him, she went up and lifted his head, and was evidently used to sleeping with one eye open. He jumped up abruptly, and one eye open means say he would be half asleep. As soon as something would disturb him, would straight away get up. He jumped up abruptly, instantly, and seemed to be quite frightened. My name is Edla Wilmanson, said the young girl. My father came home and said that you wanted to sleep here in the fort tonight. And then I asked permission to come and bring you home to us. I am so sorry, Captain, that you are having such a hard time. Him compassionately with her heavy eyes, and then she noticed that the man was afraid. Either he has stolen something or else he has escaped from jail. That's what she assumed. She got to know on looking at his frightened eyes. She thought and added quickly, you may be sure, Captain, that you will be allowed to leave us just as freely as you came. You will be allowed to go whenever you want. Only please stay with us over Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve and they wanted him to stay with them. She said in such a friendly manner that the Rattrap peddler must have felt confidence in her, that he could have confidence in her, trust in her. It would never have occurred to me that you would bother with me yourself, miss. I will come at once. It had never occurred to me, I had not thought that you yourself would come to pick me up from here. I am coming. He accepted the fur coat with the valet handed him with a deep bow, threw it over his rags, and followed the young lady out to the carriage, without granting the astonished blacksmiths so much as a glance. The blacksmith was astonished, a glance at him, and he followed the lady to the carriage. But while he was riding up to the manor house, he had evil forebodings, which means evil thoughts that this is something bad that's going to happen. Why the devil did I take that fellow's money? He thought. Now I am sitting in the trap and will never get out of it. This is what he thought. The next day was Christmas Eve, and when the ironmaster came into the dining room for breakfast, he probably thought with satisfaction of his old regimental comrade whom he had run across so unexpectedly. Now, the next day, when it was breakfast time, the ironmaster was very much satisfied because he had found a regimental comrade whom he had unexpectedly come across. First of all, we must see to it that he gets a little flesh on his bones. He was thin and skinny, so he must get some flesh on his bones. He should grow a bit fat. He said to his daughter, who was busy at the table, and then we must see that he gets something else to do than to run around the country selling rat. He should be physically okay. The second thing, he should be financially okay, because instead of selling rat traps, he should find some other work. It is curious that things have gone downhill with him, as badly as that, said the daughter. It's really bad that things have not worked properly for him. Last night I did not think there was anything about him to show that he had once been an educated man. Yesterday night, when I saw him, from no point of view he appeared to be an educated man. You must have patience, my little girl, said the father. As soon as he gets clean and dressed, you see something different. Last night he was naturally embarrassed. The tramp manners will fall away from him with the tramp clothes. As soon as he would change his clothes, these manners also will change. He will look. Just as he said this, the door opened and the stranger entered. Yes, now he was truly clean and well dressed. The valet had bathed him, cut his hair, and shaved him. Moreover, he was dressed in a good looking suit of clothes which belonged to the ironmaster. He wore a white shirt and a stretched collar and whole shoes. But although his guest was now so well groomed, the ironmaster did not seem pleased. Even on after that, say on looking at the ironmaster was not happy. He looked at him with puckered brows. With puckered brows means say tightly gathered and contracted into wrinkles on his face. In that way, he looked at him. And it was easy to understand that when he had seen this fellow in the uncertain reflection from the furnace, he might have a mistake. Now, after he got dressed, he was clean. It occurred to the ironmaster that he must have committed a mistake. He is not his old regimental comrade. But that now, when he stood there in broad daylight, it was impossible to mistake him for an old acquaintance. Now he could clearly make out that he is not his old friend. What does this mean? Danger made no attempt to dissimulate. He did not try to say elude the or say create any false belief in the mind of the ironmaster. He saw at once that the splendor had come to an end. All this joy and the happiness that was there was gone. It is not my fault, sir. I never pretended to be anything but a poor trader, and I pleaded and begged to be allowed to stay in the forge, but no harm has been done. At worst, I can put on my rags again and go away. He said very clearly that, see, I did not tell you to consider me to be your old friend. I told you repeatedly, and I did not try to act as your old friend as well. But you pulled me and brought here. I have not harmed you in any way. At the most, if you say, then I will put on my old clothes and get lost from here. Well, said the ironmaster, hesitating a little. It was not quite honest either. You could have mentioned that I am not that uh, old regimental comrade. But you must admit that. And I should not be surprised if the sheriff would like to have something to say in the matter. Maybe the police would say something in this matter. The tramp took a step forward and struck the table with his fist. Now he was angry. He threw his fist on the table. Now I am going to tell you, Mr. Iron, how things are, he said. This whole world is nothing but a big rat trap. All the good things that are offered to you are nothing but cheese rings and beds of pork, set out to drag a poor fellow. Now, all these things, I got trapped in this. And if the sheriff comes now and locks me up for this, then you, Mr. Ironmaster, must remember that a day yourself may want to get a big piece of pork, and then you will get caught in the trap. The Ironmaster began to laugh at his silly theology. That was not so badly said, my good fellow. Perhaps we should let the sheriff alone on Christmas Eve. Let's not disturb him. Let him enjoy the Christmas Eve. We don't want to call him. But now get out of here as fast as you can. But just as the man was opening the door, the daughter said, I think he ought to stay with us today. I don't want him to go. And with that, she went and closed the door. What in the world are you doing? Said the father. The daughter stood there quite embarrassed and hardly knew. She did not know what to answer. The morning she had felt so happy when she thought how homelike and Christmassy she was going to make things for the poor hungry wretch. In the morning, make it say heavenly for the poor hungry wretch on the Christmas Eve. She could not get away from the heavens. She had thought that she would say make the poor man feel so good, but it was now all of a sudden she could not get rid of that idea, and that was why she had interceded for The witch intervened, interrupted, and did not allow him to go. I am thinking of this stranger here, said the young girl. He walks the whole year long, and there is probably not a single place in the whole country where he is welcome and can feel at home. Wherever he turns, he is chased away. Always he is afraid of being arrested and cross examined. I should like to have him enjoy a day of peace with us here, just one in the whole year. The ironmaster mumbled something in his beard very softly. He could not bring himself to oppose her. He couldn't. It was all a mistake, of course, she continued, to chase away a human being whom we have asked to come here and to whom we have promised Christmas cheer. You do preach worse than a parson, said the ironmaster. I only hope you won't have to regret this. The young girl took the stranger by the hand and led him to the table. Now sit down and eat, she said, for she could see that her father had given in, that he had surrendered and he would accept what she would do. The man with the red trap said not a word. He only sat down and helped himself to the food. Time after time, who had interceded for him, who had gone to between, say, him and her father. Why had she done it? What could the crazy idea be? After that, Christmas Eve at Ramsjo passed just as it always had. The stranger did not cause any trouble because he did nothing but sleep. The whole forenoon he lay on the sofa in one of the guest rooms and slept in at one stretch. At noon they woke him up so that he could have his share of the good Christmas. But after that he slept again. It seemed as though for many years he had not been able to sleep as quietly and safely as here at Ramsjo. In the evening, when the Christmas tree was lighted, they woke him up again, and he stood for a while in the drawing room, blinking as though the candlelight hurt him. But after that, he disappeared again. 2 hours later, he was aroused once more. He then had to go down into the dining room and eat the Christmas fish and porridge. As soon as they got up from the he went around to each one person and said thank you, and gave him to understand that it was her father's intention that the suit which he wore was to be a Christmas present. He did not have to return it. And if he wanted to spend next Christmas Eve in place where he could rest in peace and be sure that no evil would befall him, he would be welcomed back again. So he could again come on the next Christmas Eve also. The man with the red trap did not answer anything to this. He only stared at the young girl in boundless amazement. He was amazed, astonished. The ironmaster and his daughter got up in good season to go to the early Christmas service. He was still asleep, and they did not disturb him. When at about 10 o'clock they drove back from the church, the young girl sat and hung her head even more dejectedly than usual. At church, she had learned that one of the old crofters of the ironworks had been robbed by a man who went around selling red traps. That's what she got to know from the church. And that's why she was feeling that she had committed a mistake. Yes, that was a fine fellow you let into the house, said the father. That fellow you had brought into the house. I only wonder how many silver spoons are left in the cupboard by this time. Now he was wondering that, say, the vagabond must have gone away with the silver spoons and all that was possible. The had hardly stopped at the front step when the ironmaster asked the valet whether the stranger was still there. He added that he had heard at church that the valet answered that the fellow had gone and that he had not taken anything with him at all. On the contrary, he had left behind a little package which Miss Wilmanson was to be kind enough to accept as a Christmas present. He did not take away anything, instead of that, he had left a Christmas present. The girl opened the package, which was so badly done up that contents came into view at once. It was not properly packed, was seen very fast. She gave a little cry of joy. She found a small rat trap, and in it lay three wrinkled notes. But that was not all. In the rat trap lay also a letter written in large, jagged characters. Honored and noble Miss, since you have been so nice to me all day long, as if I was a captain, I want to be nice to you in return, as if I was a real captain, for I do not want this Christmas, but you can give back the money to the old man on the roadside, who has the money pouch hanging on the window frame as a bait for poor wanderers. The rat trap is the Christmas present for a rat who would have been caught in this world's rat trap if he had not been raised to captain, because in that way he got power to clear himself. Written with friendship and high regard, Captain Von Stern.